It's an honor to be with President Lee of South Korea. We've known each other and gotten along very well. We are thinking about contracting some ships. They build them very well in South Korea. They're also thinking about coming to our country with some shipyards to start us on the process of building ships again. You know, at World War II, we'd build a ship a day. And today we don't build ships anymore, which is ridiculous. We're going to start that again. But we were like you. We were building ships all the time for everybody. And presidents and people allowed that to slip by. And now we buy ships, but we're going to be buying ships from South Korea. But we're also going to have them make ships here with our people, using our people. And we're going to go back into the shipbuilding business again, because really, essentially, we don't build ships anymore, which is ridiculous how that ever happened. But we were the best at it. And you can take a look at World War II in particular, where we were doing virtually a ship a day. And it's hard to believe. These were tankers and different kinds of ships, but we were very active. And you see a lot of those shipyards sitting there idle, but they're not so idle anymore. And you're going to come in also, and you're going to be doing a lot of ships in this country, so I look forward to that. But we have a lot of other trade things. They're a big purchaser of our military equipment. We make the best military equipment in the world. And you saw that recently with, take a look at what we did with the B-2 bomber, which you have one right there. They gave that to me. I guess the company gave that to me. The B-2 bomber was so successful in what took place in the little excursion that we made, 36 hours, and it wiped out nobody's ever seen anything like it. 36 hours back and forth. Not a thing went wrong, not a screw was missing, not a bolt was missing, not a plane had not even a little bit of a problem. And we actually had 52 tankers. We had many planes, but you know, you looked at the B-2, the way they handled that. Every single bomb hit its target. So they understand that. We make the best military equipment in the world, and South Korea is a big buyer of military equipment, and we're going to talk about that also.
Mr. President, you mentioned about Chairman Kim, and thanks to your efforts when you were in office during your first term, the situation on the Korean Peninsula was stable. But during the hiatus where you were out of office, North Korea developed further its nuclear and missile capabilities, and that led to a deterioration on the situation of the Korean Peninsula.
And they wouldn't have done that. They would not have done that if I were president. It was not going to happen.
대통령이 당선되었다면은 그런 일이 일어나지 않았을 것입니다.
전적으로 공감합니다.
I completely agree with you.
그래서 지금 얼마 전에 김여정이 미국과 저를 비난하는 발언을 할 때도 대통령과 김정은 위원장의 특별한 관계에 대해서는 의심하지 않는다 이런 표현을 했습니다. 기다리고 있다는 뜻으로 보여졌습니다.
So when Kim Yo-jong, the deputy director of the Workers' Party of Korea, issued a statement denouncing South Korea, she mentioned about the not bad relationship between you and Chairman Kim Jong-un, and I believe that this is a sign that North Korea is waiting.
한반도의 평화의 새길을 꼭 열어주시기 바랍니다.
So I hope that you will usher in a new era of peace on the Korean Peninsula.
I will do that, and we'll have talks. He'd like to meet with me. He didn't want to meet with Biden because he had no respect for Biden, but we look forward to meeting with him, and we'll make relations better. You'll help that. You had a lot of leaders. I've gone through a lot of leaders in South Korea. You know, it's been quick. You'll be there for a long time. But we, in the various leaders that I've dealt with, they were not approaching it properly, in my opinion, having to do with North Korea. But I think your approach is a much better one.
네, 그렇게 하도록 하겠습니다. 김 위원장이 바이든 전 대통령을 만나고 싶죠 하지는 않았지만 말은 만나고 싶어 할 것 같습니다. 그래서 그런 그 시도를 하겠고요. 내가 한국의 지도자들을 여러 분을 만나봤는데 제 개인적인 생각으로는 대북 정책이 그렇게 적절하지 않지 않았나 하는 생각이 듭니다. 그래서 이 대통령께서 그 적절한 대북 정책을 통해서 좀 더 그 진전이 있었으면 하는 생각입니다.
저의 관여로 남북 관계가 잘 개선되기 쉽지 않은 상태인데 실제로 이 문제를 풀 수 있는 유일한 인물이 트럼프 대통령이십니다.
So resolving this issue through my engagement is not an easy thing. And the only person that can make progress on this issue is you, Mr. President.
대통령께서 피스메이커를 하시면 저는 페이스메이커로 열심히 지원하겠습니다.
So if you become the peacemaker, then I will assist you by being a pacemaker.
That's good. We can do big progress, I think, with North Korea. Absolutely.
Mr. President, when you met with Russian President Vladimir Putin, how soon did he say that he wanted to sit down with Ukrainian President Zelensky? Russia, as of now, says there's no meeting on the books and no agenda is set.
Well, that's going to be up to them. It takes two to tango. I always say it. And they should meet, I think, before I have a meeting and probably close the deal. But I think it's appropriate they meet. They do not exactly get along well, as you can understand. And I'm sure it's a meeting that perhaps he didn't like. But he wasn't happy about coming to the United States either. That was a big concession, and I appreciate the fact that he did. You know, I've always had a very good relationship, despite a fake Russia haunt that we had. But we've always had a great relationship, very good relationship, strong relationship with Russia. That's a good thing, not a bad thing, by the way. That's a very good thing. And it's good to get along with Kim Jong-un, and it's good to get along with everybody, including President Lee. It's good to get along, and I get along with the foreign leaders. You see that with the biggest group of foreign leaders that we've ever had. Don't forget the European Union was here also representing a large group of countries just recently. So I believe that we're going to get that war straightened out. We're going to get it done. I don't know that they'll meet. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. They'd like me to be at the meeting. I said, you guys ought to work it out. It's between you. It's not us. Now, in the meantime, we're not spending any money on, as you know, on Ukraine. We're selling military equipment to NATO. NATO now is taking in, excuse me, NATO now is taking in a large amount of money from the countries. They're taking in 5% of GDP versus 2%. They're paying the 5%. They never paid the 2%, most of them, or a lot of them. NATO has a lot of money. We are selling military equipment to NATO at full price. And NATO's distributing that equipment to wherever they are, I mean, perhaps to Ukraine. So NATO's working with Ukraine. Biden was giving hundreds of billions of dollars, just willy-nilly, just giving money. He had no idea where it was going. It was terrible what was happening. So we're not involved anymore in terms of the cost. We're in for $350 billion. As you know, I also got the rare earth deal done with Ukraine, which was worth much more than the $350 billion. But I'm not interested in the money so much, even though we've done a great job in that regard. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in stopping a war where last week 7,109 soldiers died, both Russian and Ukraine. It's such a waste of life and humanity. They're not from this country. They're not from any other country other than Ukraine, for the most part, other than Ukraine and Russia. But it's a very important thing to me to stop it. I stopped 7 wars that were raging, one for 31 years, the Congo, and as you know, Rwanda, one for 35 years. I don't have to go into them. You know the list better than I do. But we stopped a lot of wars, including, you think about it, India and Pakistan, which was probably 2 weeks away from being a nuclear war. They were shooting down airplanes all over the place. So I'm very proud of that. I thought this would be, in many ways, the easiest way. I have a very good relationship with Putin. I thought it would be the easiest one to stop, and it's really not. It's very complex. It's very personal from their standpoint. There's tremendous dislike personally between the two men, and we're going to have to straighten that out. But I would like to see them meet first.
So as mentioned earlier, the United States is South Korea's most important and closest ally. So in this point of view, I would like to ask you and also President Lee, what do you think are the key ways to make the South Korea-U.S. alliance greater?
Well, I think it's great now. I feel very warmly toward South Korea. I will tell you that I have a lot of people in business that I deal with that are from South Korea. They love Trump because they feel I've saved. I think you would have had a nuclear war if I weren't. I think you would have had a nuclear war, North Korea and South Korea. I think it would have been a disaster. You're only 60 miles away from Seoul. They don't even need nuclear. They have their cannons, howitzers, and they have them buried in the mountain. You know what I'm talking about. And I think you would have had, if I didn't win that election, if Hillary Clinton, crooked Hillary, won that election, I think you would have had a nuclear war. it would have taken place, and it would have been horrendous for everybody, including them. It would have been very bad for them because we would have had to enter the picture, and we are the most powerful nuclear country in the world by far. Russia's second, China's third. China's going to catch eventually, 5 or 6 years. They're working to catch. One of the things we're trying to do with Russia and with China is denuclearization. And it's very important. One of the things I discussed with President Putin the other day, it wasn't just that, it was also other things. And I think the denuclearization is it's a big aim, but Russia's willing to do it, and I think China's going to be willing to do it too. We can't let nuclear weapons proliferate. We have to stop nuclear weapons. The power is too great.
You mentioned about the shipbuilding industry, and President Lee mentioned about the manufacturing industry. And what other areas or sectors that you intend to focus on this trade deal? Because Korea is bringing in many investments and create jobs as well. So I'd like to know the opinions of both, how to get a beneficial outcomes for both countries through this deal.
Well, we're going to get along great because we really sort of need each other. We love what they do. We love their product. We love their ships. We love a lot of the things that they make. And they love what we have. We're dealing with them on Alaska having to do with the oil. You need oil and we have it. So we have a big advantage in that way. We have more oil and gas and coal and energy than any other country in the world by far. No, for whatever reason, God was very good to us. He gave us the greatest. We didn't use it. We started to use wind. Wind doesn't work. They started to use solar panels that took over the land all over the Midwest, where the farmers said, what happened to my land? They'd have a 10-mile by 10-mile solar field that they couldn't farm, the most valuable farming land in the world, probably the most vibrant in the world. And they put solar plants all over the place. It's ridiculous. Big, massive black fields of solar that all comes out of China, or plastic, all comes out of China. But we have the greatest amount of energy in the world, and we're dealing with South Korea, as you know, in Alaska, and we're going to be making a deal, a joint venture with South Korea. Japan is involved also, very strongly involved. So we have Japan and South Korea, and we're actually the closest. You know, it seems like quite far away, Alaska, but actually it's right up the little ocean, right up the little Pacific Ocean. It's actually pretty close, relatively speaking. But we have more oil and gas and coal than any other nation in the world by far, and we're going to use it. And that's the thing that South Korea, I think, most wants from us, I would think. I hear so many stories about we're not going to allow their students, or we're going to allow their students to come in. We're going to allow, it's very important, 600,000 students. It's very important. But we're going to get along with China. But it's a different relationship that we have now with China. It's a much better relationship economically than it was before. With Biden, boy, what he allowed that, I mean, they just took him to the cleaners. You know the expression? They took him to the cleaners. I'm sure they have an equal expression in South Korea, but they took that guy out for a ride like nobody's ever been ridden before. Terrible. But we have a very strong relationship, Howard, I would say, economically with China now, getting much better. They have to give us magnets. If they don't give us magnets, then we have to charge them 200% tariff or something, you know. But we're not going to have a problem, I don't think, with that. I think that's perhaps behind us. You know, China intelligently went and they sort of took a monopoly of the world's magnets. And nobody needed magnets until they convinced everybody 20 years ago, let's all do magnets. There were many other ways that the world could have gone. But so it'll take us probably a year to have them. We're heavy into the world of magnets now, only from a national security standpoint. But we have a powerful thing. It's airplane parts. They have many Boeing jets. You know, they had 200 jets that didn't fly. And I've sent them all, based on his word, I sent them all of the parts so their planes can fly. I could have held them back. I didn't do that because of the relationship I have. And their planes are now flying. You know, we had 200 of their planes were unable to fly because we were not giving them Boeing parts purposely, because they weren't giving us magnets. Therefore, we weren't giving them. But we have a much more powerful thing, that's tariffs. If we wanted to put 100%, 200% tariffs on, we wouldn't do any business with China. And, you know, it would be okay, too, if we had to. But the magnet situation, We have tremendous power over them, and they have some power over us with magnets. We're going to have a lot of magnets in a pretty short period of time. In fact, we'll have so many we won't know what to do with them. But you know the story. It's a very interesting history with magnets. And it really is because presidents, not being business people, they allowed that to happen. And they shouldn't have. But we have much more. I mean, look, in terms of playing the cards, we have much bigger and better cards than they do.
When will you deploy to Chicago, and how long are you keeping troops here in Washington, D.C.?
I really want to be appreciated. You know, when we go into a city and wipe out the crime, so D.C., it sounds so horrible. I'm embarrassed to say it in front of you because they don't have anything like this. Washington, D.C., sir, has not had a murder in 11 days. Now, he's saying that's a horrible thing to hear because they don't have murders for ever. But Washington, D.C., if you go back and check, it's been many years since we went a week without having a murder. Now we haven't had, and I would say that Washington, D.C. right now is much safer than Seoul. You know why? Because we have a friendly neighbor. We have more friendly neighbors. You have a different kind of problem. We all have different problems. But Washington, D.C. is a very safe city right now. People are going out to dinner. Restaurants are opening. Restaurants that were going to close are now going to stay open. Friends of mine are going out to dinner all the time. They didn't go out to dinner for 4 years. It went rampant during the Biden years. Just rampant. That's why Susie is very close to the mayor and has a lot of respect for her, but I view it maybe a little differently because the mayor would say that it's gotten better. For 30 years it's gotten better. No, it's gotten worse. And the worst day of all was when we just got to office for the second time, and it's in very bad shape. So the mayor shouldn't be saying that violent crime has been getting better. It's been getting much worse. And the day I took office, it was the worst. And we did some minor things, made it a little bit better, but then we said, look, we got to stop it because too many people are getting killed. And we have not had a murder in 11 days. It sounds crazy. I hate to say this in front of this gentleman who I respect because they don't have murders for years. But we have not had a murder in 11 days. And that's going to go on for a long time. And there will be, I guess, it'll happen a little bit. But we have a very safe city. This is one of the safer cities right now in the country. Please go ahead.
Mr. President, what conversations have you had with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu about what is going on in Gaza? There was a UN-backed report that said there was a famine in Gaza. Based on what you know and what you've been briefed on, do you agree with that?
So, I mean, I deal with Bibi Netanyahu quite a bit. And we had great success, obviously, in Iran. We knocked out their nuclear threat. That would have been a horror show having them have a nuclear weapon. They would have used it, too. We did very well there. Right now, they're talking about Gaza City. There's always talking about something. At some point, it's going to get settled. And I'm saying you better get it settled soon. You have to get it settled soon. And that means, you know, nobody can forget October 7th. People forget October 7th. That was one of the most brutal. I've seen some terrible things, some brutal things. That was about as bad as it gets. And nobody can forget that. With that being said, it's got to get over with. It's got to get over with because between the hunger and all of the other problems, worse than hunger, death, pure death, people being killed. And, you know, I'm the one that brought back the hostages, and I did it with that gentleman right there, Steve Witkoff, and with Marco. All of us, the whole team, we worked together. Even the trade people worked on it with us. And we brought back a lot of the hostages. Now we're left with, would you say 20, Steve, or would you say it's less than 20?
I hope it's 20.
He hopes it's 20 because some could be dead. That's what he means, I assume.
Yes.
So we have 20, but there's rumors that some could be dead. It's a terrible situation over there. Terrible, terrible situation. But it's coming to a head. It's coming to an end. We are sending, you know, we sent $60 million of food over there just recently. And I don't even know if people know it. We distributed ourselves. We're giving a lot of food, spending a lot of money on food, getting it over there. We have a lot of food. We have a lot of oil, and we have the greatest farmers in the world. So we have a lot of food, but we're sending a lot of it over to Gaza, and we're feeding a lot of people. But with all of that being said, it's a lot of people to feed. And I think that we will have, I think within the next 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to have pretty good, conclusive a conclusive ending. And it's a hard thing to say because they've been fighting for
가질 수 있을 거라고 생각합니다.
thousands of years. If you want to know, that's been a hotbed forever. But I think we're doing a very good job. But it does have to end. But people can't forget October 17th.
Are more raids like that coming, sir? Are more raids like the one on John Bolton's house coming?
More raids? I don't know. You'd have to ask the Department of Justice. They raided my house, I can tell you that. They did a big raid on my house. They took away everything that wasn't pinned down, and they took away some of that too. No, they raided Mar-a-Lago. They started that. These were bad people that we had in our government before. They raided Mar-a-Lago. They went into my wife's area. They went into my son's area, my young son. And what they did was a disgrace. But how did it work out? I see. We're in the overall. I guess it didn't work out too well for them, did it? They are bad people. They're sick. They're sick people. And they came in with their guns into Mar-a-Lago, like 98 people. I wasn't there. Fortunately, I wasn't there. But they are very evil, very sick people, that group. And if they would have won the election, this country wouldn't exist as we know it. This country would have been a failed country. And now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world by far. We are the hottest country in the world by far.
President Lee met with the Japanese Prime Minister before this summit. So is there something to discuss regarding the cooperation among South Korea, US, and Japan?
I think so. Look, Japan is a great ally of us, and I had a little bit of a hard time getting you two together because you're still thinking about comfort women, right? Comfort women. That's all they wanted to talk about was comfort women. And I thought that was settled a few times over the decades. But there is an overlapping problem with that. Perhaps I'm wrong in saying it. Perhaps this isn't right, but the whole issue of the women, comfort women, very specifically, we talked, and it was a very big problem for Korea, not for Japan. Japan wanted to go. They want to get on, but Korea was very stuck on that. You understand? So I don't know. Perhaps you'd like to answer. It's a good question. It was hard getting Japan and Korea together because of what took place a long time ago. But Japan wants to do it, I can say. Korea is a little bit more tenuous.